Hello.
Hello there.
Oh, that's much better for me.
Good.
Fantastic.
Yes. And
Cool.
and suddenly I have nothing to say.
There we are. That's
Oh,
usually the way, isn't it?
yeah. I should have prepared or made notes.
Don't worry. I literally don't prepare anything for anything. So
Are you serious?
no, I never write a script. I might put like a couple of notes, but the last
Okay.
few videos I've done, I've just sort of done off the fly, really.
Oh, well, I have to say, the last couple of videos, I think you made a video about the Dramageddon, and
Oh, this
that that
this
that
current one, yeah.
yeah, and Dramageddon Part 4, the fourth season.
Oh,
It came
yeah.
early this year.
It
Usually it
did.
happens around the summer, but this time, like, just the year started and boom, Trisha Paytas couldn't stop.
Oh, I know. Well, that was the thing. After a point, I was like, I'm getting sick of putting it on my thumbnails, and you know, you get to a point where, because originally, oh, have we started now, like properly?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
It's
So,
casual in here, so
oh,
don't worry
okay,
about
there
it.
we go.
I'll just edit out the first part and then we're good to go. So
Oh,
no
right,
worries.
no
Yeah.
worries. So, yeah, so with that, because you had obviously this fella Hair by Jay who works for Jeffree Star, just coming out with that really just horrid um,
Yes.
live stream. And that was the thing that I was shocked by. I had no idea it was going to lead on to just everyone getting destroyed and
A
like Shane
nuclear
Dawson.
meltdown.
Oh
Yes.
my God, yeah, because Shane, I well, I think he's gonna. This is the thing with all of these really big YouTubers is he can make a comeback. He can absolutely do that, but whether or not it's going to be a widely received comeback is
Yeah.
a different story now, really, I think. And the problem that everyone's having at the moment is, you know, people are sort of treating Shane the way they are now only because of the back of what Trish is saying, as opposed to all of the reams of footage that we had of him being a disgusting human
Yes.
being less than a year ago.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, and it shows on Twitter, because a year ago, if you say like a word about him, it seems like his stans would search his name and find your tweets, even if
yeah.
you didn't have a large following or your tweet is not wildly exposed or seen. They would find you and
Oh, yeah. No, they do.
keep you busy for hours
They do.
defending and defending.
The funniest
And
thing is
this
when
year, nothing happens.
no, well, it's a bit harder this year. It's well, like I said, they've got someone who they thought was his best friend. And it's like,
Yes.
oh well, now it must be, now it must make sense
So, yeah,
because
oh yeah, so everything, yeah, because we are like the jealous haters who
oh
don't appreciate how he changed and how he's an empath, and we're terrible people, so who
that
cares about what
empath
we
thing,
say?
the empath thing
And the
really
empath.
annoys me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. There are people obviously out there who are, and I'm not detracting from that whatsoever. But it really pisses me off when people who evidently aren't empaths are like, "Oh, I'm an empath now, so I can feel everything. So it must be,
Uh,
I must
yes.
be right."
The problem is his fans are, I think, particularly young
Yeah.
and misinformed about a lot of things. So when he said that I'm an empath because I want to help people, that's not really what an empath is.
No.
That's not the proper definition of the word. And
Empaths don't
he
do anti-Semitic cartoons for their
exactly,
friend and get them to look at
yeah.
it on film just so that they can film their reaction. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's I don't know. Maybe I'm more of an empath than him. I didn't think I was, but I've certainly never done
Trust
that
me,
for
my
one of my
little toe is
friends.
more of an empath than him. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but the thing is, they're usually misinformed and they didn't know what the word meant and they believed everything he said. So
Oh yeah.
it was, and I think because he started his empath, I'm putting air quotes here, his empath series with a quite a nice person. I'm not sure if you followed his redemption arc documentaries, but when he started,
Yeah.
he didn't yeah, he didn't start with Jeffrey and Tana. he started with the Graveyard Girl, Bunny, and she's quite the nice recluse.
Where
So
is she
nobody
now?
thought,
That's my
yeah,
question.
he actually ruined. He's like, you know, the Midas touch, but he's like the opposite. Everything he touches turned to ash eventually.
The worst
Um,
example of that for me is Eugenia. Like he should have
yes,
left her
yeah,
alone, because
that was horrible.
that
Yes,
for me is what the hell was that psychiatrist or what,
yeah,
therapist or whatever,
the
Katie
therapist,
something.
Katie Morton. Yeah,
Oh, I hate
I have
her.
words.
Yeah,
I have words for Katie Morton. She
she's awful.
aggravates me. The thing is, because I wasn't paying attention to her, I didn't know anything about her until he started the Jake Paul documentary. And again, I'm using air quotes here. Uh,
The funny thing is, I can
she,
tell when you are just from your voice. I can hear the air quotes. That's the thing.
yeah, and she came in, and first of all, how unprofessional can you be that you say like, oh, you need a shower after talking to these people?
I know.
Yeah, and people who were diagnosed with psychopathy or sociopathy at the time, like released videos responding to her that she gravely misrepresented them and made them seem like monsters from movies. Like
Well, it's kind of
now,
weird how she was talking to Shane like he was a colleague, because I've got no doubt that
yes,
there are, people who do talk like that behind the scenes. Like, oh, you'll never guess the
yes,
one that I
sometimes
just had before.
doctors talk shit. Yes, I agree, but then you wouldn't do that on camera.
No,
It's irresponsible. That was very irresponsible of her.
very.
And yeah, and then she continued with her path of irresponsibility with other videos, and what she has done with Eugenia Cooney, um
Hmm.
it goes beyond what happened in the Shane video about Eugenia, when I'm not sure if you heard about Jacqueline Glynn.
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was mind blowing, that she exchanged emails with Jacqueline, guiding her on how to put Eugenia on the 5150. And then on Shane's video, she's like, oh, those terrible people who put you in the 5150. It's like, what
Absolutely,
are you doing?
totally. She's a snake, absolute
Yes, a
snake.
snake in the a snake in the grass. Oh my god! And then she goes with those like wide, innocent eyes, and like,
Who, me? Not me,
who?
not
Yeah,
I.
exactly.
Jesus.
So yeah, that's Shane for you people.
Do you know what's funny with well, it's not exactly funny, I guess, but interesting about the Eugenia,
Yeah,
just in general, is like so out of my recent videos, and obviously, I'm a smaller channel, so I don't expect to get a ton of views at all, but um, that's probably had the most views in the shortest spell of time of any video that I've done, like periods at all. I've had videos that have had more views, but that
yeah,
one in a shortest spell of time, because people are on the ball with that. There's people
yeah.
who actually really care. She's got her fans. She's definitely got
Enablers, probably.
sycophants,
Yeah,
absolutely. But then
yeah,
she's got so many people who care, because to me, it's one of, I mean, in terms of just watching a person um, go down a really dark road, it's one of the, I mean, it's pretty tragic, and at the end of the day, because you're watching someone who, she probably weighs as much as my leg at the end of the day at the moment, and
yeah.
yeah,
No, and
it's
she
just
gets
really
smaller
sad.
and smaller with time. I remember older videos of her, and she looked a little bit. He- I won't say heavier. Heavier is like the wrong word, but she had more weight
She
on
definitely
a
did.
couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and now she looks much worse. And this is after therapy and after recovery, and of course, clearly it didn't work.
No. Well,
Yeah.
it might have to an extent. Here's the thing, right? So with eating disorders, it wasn't something that I was particularly, like I say, I'm no expert on it now, so don't quiz me. But it was something up until seeing her, I didn't know anything about, apart from like anorexia exists. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I looked into it, and there was a few channels that I found really interesting. So of Herbs and Altars is a really
yeah,
good one. She's British, and full on goth as well. So it's interesting as well, and the way she talks.
No, I think I've seen her videos on the recommended bar when I saw the Pastel Bell video on Eugenia.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still yet to watch it. So.
She's really good. But another one who's just started, and it's sort of a different take on it all again, was Soph's Story. So SOPH' and then Story. And she's British as well. And she's just the way they explain it is something that I just never even considered. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot more to it than I originally thought. And like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything, because I've watched a few videos on YouTube, because that's not the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, just hearing it from other people's perspectives. So it's almost a case of when everyone is saying to Eugenia, you're too skinny and all of these other things, that's sort of what she's going for in a way. She's wanting that kind of attention, because it's the attention to do with her weight, and it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. It's wild. It's like I said, I had no idea about any of this stuff, but
I didn't know about this kind of negative reinforcement before.
I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, but it seems to be a trend.
For me, I'm not an expert either. It's not my specialty. I haven't. I missed my psychiatry classes in school. So, and even if I did pay attention at the time, I have been far removed from this part of medicine for like years. So what I watch on YouTube is a bit illuminating for me. I can corroborate with like articles or websites, certain medical websites or whatever, but usually I'll take the shortcut and watch YouTube videos. And it shows how counterproductive all the negative attention that Eugenia is getting. So we're all thinking that we're doing her good by commenting and tagging her on Twitter and commenting on videos, and we're actually not. And it seems to be backfiring in everybody's face.
Oh, definitely. The best thing for her, which Jacqueline says, is just don't watch her, which is almost impossible for people at this point, because it is like watching, well...
Yeah, it's the train wreck and you can't look away.
Exactly. It's I never watch one of her videos direct. It will always be through one of those clips channels, which they all, and it doesn't matter who they do them on, if it's Eugenia or whoever else, like Nick Ocado, those guys do a great service, because I could not sit through the amount of footage that these people put. Eugenia does like 7 to 8 hours a day of streaming, and to try and pick up on the important points and put them in a 5-minute video is off the hinge. I just can't even. When I did a video on Nick Ocado, I was like, how in the fuck do people sit through? Someone was like, oh, you should watch the new The Right Opinions 4-hour documentary on Nick Ocado. I was like, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, The Right Opinion. But The Right Opinion doesn't post the video like daily or weekly. He goes away for like weeks on end and then comes with
He's great.
I haven't seen like a 4-hour video for him yet, but usually he has like an hour and a half to 2 hours. Onision, whatever YouTube personality is talking about that.
If it's like, if I have to sit through the Lord of the Rings, like to watch Nick Ocado, then I'm not living that life at the end of the day. It's just that's not how I get down at all.
No, and in the end you get like a short summary of like Nick Ocado. He's a YouTuber who used to be vegan and then suddenly became a mukbang channel and lost his marbles. That's basically
he got
he became like a troll.
Yeah, he got totally caught up in the views and the algorithms and all of this stuff that you see people when they go a bit fanatical on YouTube, that they get caught up with. You know, at the end of the day, we all want our videos to do well, but not at the expense of your actual health. And he's got his husband all in. I'm not sure if they're still. I haven't checked in with him for a while, because it's a sheer volume of food that spins me out. It's like he eats food that I just couldn't even like comprehend. It's out of this world. Sometimes I just have a little look just to go, how he doesn't eat it all either. That's the other thing. He sort of leaves so much. And then I get
Yes.
annoyed because then that's just waste. You're like wasting.
That's a big problem with the mukbang channels. They get a lot of food, and he's not the only one. I think a lot of them have this problem where they get like tons of food on the table.
Oh yeah.
And only eat like bits and pieces of it, and it's just strange to me.
It is. It's always noodles as well. There's
and
always noodles involved, and it's just the
I
worst
think
thing to
because
watch in the world.
I think maybe because mukbang started as like an Asian
Yeah.
thing. I think it's
a Korean. I
don't
think.
remember which country. Yeah, I don't remember which country exactly, but it started with eating noodles, and then Western YouTubers jumped on the bandwagon.
Well, it was a way originally for families to still eat together in Korea. If I think I'm getting that right, but it was sort of, you know, they're doing it online so that they can still have that family unit eating, as it were. But yeah, then the Westerners just ate like 10,000 calories of Popeyes in a go.
You guys ruin everything.
It's what we do. It's what we do. You know, we just wreck things. And then we pretend that like we made things better. It's our thing.
Oh my God. That would start me on a whole nother colonizer tangent.
Yeah.
but let me stop myself. Oh God. But yeah, so YouTube, wild. I never thought, here's the thing. I started watching YouTube probably in 2000. I'm late to the game as always, and I started watching it regularly in 2016.
Okay.
Makeup videos, what's in my bag, all this like mind-numbing stuff because you want to take your mind.
Yeah, background stuff.
And yes, and then you start watching a couple of makeup videos. Not you, but me.
Yeah, I've never done that. But yeah.
You start watching a couple of makeup videos, and then the makeup drama crept into my life. And by 2017, I was hooked, and I rejoined Twitter again to follow.
You rejoined
like, the
it, did you?
Channels. Oh my, yeah. No, here's my. Then we go on another tangent, which is my like life on Twitter. I joined Twitter initially in 2011.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was my Arabic account because the Arab Spring started.
Oh.
And I was on Facebook before that. And here's the funny story. I made the horrible mistake when 2011 started, and I posted on Facebook that this seems to be a boring year.
Never do that. Never do that. What are you doing?
I've learned my lesson. I keep my mouth shut now.
I get blamed for stuff for predicting things.
Yes. No, not Nostradamus, not at all.
Slothtradamus.
So I posted, I posted, this seems to be, it's going to be a boring year. And then 3 weeks later, Egypt exploded. And then everything else exploded.
And then you went, delete. I got to delete this.
delete. Get out of Facebook. And then I joined Twitter because the revolution in Egypt was actually run on Twitter.
Oh, really?
That's the funny part. Yeah, social media played a huge part in that because all the revolutionaries and organizers were talking to people on social media because they couldn't gather anywhere. And then Mubarak, the president at the time, thought it was the smart idea to disconnect the internet.
Oh, well.
So he shut down the internet services. Not entirely. He gave them like an hour a day or something, as far as I remember. And during that time, they would like communicate with each other on Twitter. Sometimes post on Facebook, but the main work was on Twitter. And like, we're gonna gather here at that time, and they have like 1 million people march every Friday until that guy resigned eventually.
Yeah.
Or not resigned, he was taken down by the army, and then the new government.
That's a little bit different to resigning, mine, isn't it? Getting taken down by the army.
Yeah. You know, when like
that's so the contrast
when
there.
the boss calls you to the office, it's like resign or else, and then you come out and it's like I have resigned just to like retain a bit of dignity. I think
it's sort of UK politicians when they resign, it's like they've just been told to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So he stepped down and then was arrested, and it was mostly thanks to Twitter. So I joined Twitter to watch all of that and like see the live commentary, etc.
Sure.
And then it rolled on from there, and I had quite the Twitter career. from 2011 to 2016, I had about 4,000
Oh
followers
wow.
at the time, because you start talking about the Egyptian revolution, and then the Syrian revolution happened, and then you meet people from Saudi Arabia, and you meet the Saudi feminists who have quite the presence on Twitter.
Oh wow.
And a lot of them became my friends, and it was quite a good time. Quite the good time. But then I got tired of it and I left. So I left for about a year.
Was it just like too much of a sort of an accumulation of it all?
Yeah,
was it?
no,
yeah,
exactly, because you get to tweet and then you get responses and you're arguing with people like for hours and hours on end, and
that doesn't sound like Twitter. What are you talking about?
So yeah, so it's toxic in all languages, basically.
Oh, there we go. That's almost a bit reassuring, though.
yeah, it's horrible in all languages. So I left for a year and a half, and then I came back thanks to drama channels. But of course, I came back with a different account, and then I lost my account, and then I had another account, which is the one I have now, because MRAs mass reported me.
Oh, really?
Year. Oh, actually, in 2019, not last year, 2019, they mass reported my account because there was a woman who used incel language. So I said, "You're probably not
there we go. That's one of my favorite topics."
It's like, "Oh, you're misgendering me," and I got slammed and I got locked out of my account. It's like,
oh, so...
oh god, it was like, oh god, I'm not gonna like fight with Twitter to get my account back.
No,
like that. And I just
no need.
A new account.
Like, just get another one. But
yeah,
I actually never went on Twitter at all up until the point I started the channel. I just never went near it. Heard a lot about it, obviously, but I just decided it probably, I don't know, I think I just went outside more instead. But
what do you mean? Do you mean we do go
no,
outside?
but I used to just, go skating all the time, and I don't know, it's just
yeah,
I used to go out just a fair bit. Well, obviously now it's been in lockdown since like for a year pretty much now, but it's I never went on it, and knock on wood, I've not had any crazy experiences on there. No, I'm far more careful about what I say on Twitter than I am on YouTube, I'll be honest with you. I still say pretty much what I want to say on there, but at the same time, well, here's the thing, even though I've got sarcastic in my name, they can't see my face or how I'm talking. So some people just take it dead ass seriously, no matter what. And even though I'm not like a joke account or anything like that, but yeah, there's one in particular, there's one person in particular, I won't say who they are, and they're a nice person in general, but you can't joke with them at all. They just don't get it in any way, shape, or form. It's just one of those things where you're like, I've tried a few times, and you're like, oh fucking hell, this is painful. Like, all right, you're over there now. I'm not even going to try. You even set up that joke for me, but you don't get the joke. It's just like, all right, I'll leave that then. I'll leave that. There's plenty of other people who do have a joke. Obviously, you've probably seen mine and Beauty Heathen channels back and forth.
Yeah, I was yesterday. I saw the back and forth and I was like scared for a second, and then like,
it's always joking. So it's always joking. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And it started. I don't know how it started, but I think it's because obviously there's a lot of seriousness in the drama community, just in general.
Yes.
So us just sort of, I don't know if she thinks this way because I've never talked to her about it, but like it's almost like a distraction. We're doing that as a distraction from all of the other craziness, so that people can just laugh and get involved, and if they want to. Usually they don't. Usually they just leave us to it and just laugh on the side. But yeah,
that's what I did yesterday when I figured out that was kidding.
It always is. Like I can't. Yeah, there's no point. I will say she calls me a lot more names than I don't even call her names. Like she just fully disses me, man. But yeah, it's
You're being a
Well,
gentleman
you
about
know,
it, I guess.
it's
Yeah.
so some of us need to use insults to put a point across, and some of us don't. It's just the way of things, I guess.
I'm going to
Do
link to
it.
the episode this time
I'll
specifically.
say it to her face. No. No, but yeah. Sometimes I find that the Twitter does take itself really, really seriously. That's not to say that there isn't serious conversations, like topics up for debate at all. But yeah, sometimes you got to go. We're in the drama community, man. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah, the drama community, I think things have escalated way far than they should have. Like there are of course certain issues that need to
totally,
be
yeah,
taken seriously, but the way certain relationships have fallen and how certain people took certain topics, it goes overboard. And then, okay, so you and I had a falling out, let's block each other and move on. And then, but people are still talking about each other like a year later, and it's a bit crazy.
yeah. I mean, like I say,
So
I've only been around for not the longest amount of time, so I don't know the full timelines.
yeah.
But for me, I noticed everything ramped up a lot, and rightly so. When Angelica Oles did a big cock up last year in December, was it December? I think it was.
I think it was,
Yeah,
yeah,
something
no,
like that.
December.
And
Yeah, yeah, it was December.
because at the end of the day, for those out there who don't know what the hell we're talking about or who these people are, yeah, but basically, I'm trying to remember how that actually all started.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I do remember. There was a comment about
That's
the
it. Yeah,
Kardashians, and of course they're like culture vultures and all of that. And she said like, "Oh, just ignore them. They live in your
that's
minds
it.
rent
Yeah,
free and stuff." And yeah, and then probably someone tried to explain to her that this is not the way to go about it, and she got defensive and blocked
they
people.
did. I remember
And that
because
happened. No, that happened
Xavier
months
JJ
prior
and
to this
I just can't remember her name off the top of my head. Diana something.
Diana. Yeah,
Yeah,
Diana spoke about her,
Diana
and
Plantana.
Xavier
That's
talked
it.
about her.
I remembered.
Uh,
I don't want
yeah, Diana
to say
Plantana.
half the name.
I'll edit this
Yeah.
out. Man, I hoped I wouldn't edit anything this
No,
time, but
it's
you
all
made
right.
me do it. It's fine. So yeah, so Diana Plantana and Xavier talked about her, and of course, because they're small channels, everything was swept under the rug, and she just
Yeah,
went on about her life. And then it got brought. What I don't remember is how it got brought up again. That what I don't remember. But it blew up because more people talked about it, and then she had to confront it. Because
oh
Smokey,
yeah,
yeah, because Smokey Glow collaborated with her, and people were telling Smokey that this is not a person you should be collaborating with. She's terrible because of X, Y, and Z. And yeah, the way Smokey responded initially, and then more
it's because they
information
were
showed
doing it all
up,
through
and then Smokey
pinned
had to like.
comments on their YouTube videos, and that's
It
just
was,
not
yeah, it was
that's not the
strange.
done thing.
Yeah,
Like my personal opinion is, if you upset people via a video, you should make a video explaining everything, as opposed to assuming that everyone's going to go back to said video and look at your comments. Like not everyone does that. Like a lot of people just get
yeah,
on with their life. So or they've seen like a clip
yes,
on Twitter
true.
or something like that. Not everyone is going to jump on there and go, oh well, I hope so and so apologized. I better check that video daily to see if that's actually occurred. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it was ridiculous. And
no,
then she
people
was
just move on. Yeah,
what was the term again? She was basically saying that some of the people yeah. So in her apology video, I remember this now. In her apology video, she said that and she brought up specific people, including Diana, um, and
yeah,
put their their profile pictures up on the screen. Said, "Oh well, these people could be white
yeah.
passing,"
She
and it's
called.
like you don't even know what that term means. Why are you throwing that out there? Like and
Here's my problem with Angelica. Angelica started her channel talking about like British issues and British
which is
YouTubers,
boring. That's why I never
and
cover any of
it
them. They're boring as.
it was funny because she made like a million videos about Zuela and
I
even
remember.
reviewed
I
her book,
actually because I
one
went
of her
back to
books.
see because in her apology she
Yeah,
was talking like like total motor mouth. I went back to see if she always talks like that,
Yeah.
and she talks fast, but she doesn't
No,
talk
she
that
doesn't.
fast. So to
Yeah.
me, it was like with the apology, it's like
Yes.
just try to mind bend people
It's
into just going, oh well, I've heard a few keywords here. I didn't hear everything in between because I was, you know, at the speed of light.
I was trying to catch up
Yeah.
with everything she was saying. Yeah, no, she talks a bit
No.
fast, but not that fast. You're right. And here's the funny thing: everything she criticized people for,
Yeah.
I remember her doing. Because she said, like, people made like a million videos about me. I was like, girl, you made a
Yeah.
million videos about Zuela. You dragged her to like through the dirt for like months. And this is how her channel grew. Because she was like the anti-Zuela girl. She started commenting about that British black guy.
Did you
What's
say
his
that
name?
British white guy? I was going to say there's quite a few.
No, the British white guy.
It's sort of our thing.
Yeah, because if I say the British guy, it would be by default that British white guy. But what is his name? He's a gamer. He talks about football.
Oh,
KSI.
right. Yeah. Yeah,
KSI.
he's definitely
she
not
started
white.
commenting about KSI, and then yeah, exactly. So she started talking about KSI in her earlier videos, and then shifted to Zuela and talked about Zuela so much that she actually bought her book and reviewed it.
It's so funny when people hate on someone, but then like fund them at the same time. You know, like with Onision and his books.
Exactly.
Like people bought his books just so that they could make some content, and it's like, what?
No, that was funny because a lot of people who bought his book, like the review videos that I watched, they actually put in a disclaimer.
Oh,
I didn't pay money for Onision. I bought this on the secondhand market. And I didn't give him my money, so I appreciated that because
his books were awful.
Like, of course, I'm not comparing like Onision
no
to Zuela or Angelica. These are like angels in comparison to this guy, but yeah, you're talking shit about Zuela for months, and then you actually bought her book and put money in her pockets, basically. So it was funny, but I think she wanted to be one of the British commentary channels that were big in the scene, like Jackmate. And I think she's quite friends with Jackmate because Jackmate also made like 100 videos about, not 100, but I'm exaggerating, but like a lot of videos about Zuela, and commented on her like advent calendar.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because that's just, since you brought up Zuela, that's just been in my head the entire time. The 50, was it like a £50 like advent calendar or something?
That was a mess. Oh my God.
Listen, all I want from an advent calendar is just Cadbury's chocolate. That's all I want. I don't need anything else. I don't need a voucher for, Harrods or anything of that nature. I just want a bit of chocolate to see me through my day. And it's got to be Cadbury's, and that's it. That's my only request.
And then you wouldn't pay 50 pounds.
There are so many things I wouldn't pay £50 for that I really want, let alone an advent calendar.
So, and the thing is, that's another tangent we go through. Her advent calendar was marketed toward kids because those were most of her audience at the time. So angry parents were messaging Boots telling them about the rubbish in the advent calendar they paid £50 for, and then they reduced the price, I think, to £25, and it was still I think someone reviewed the items, and it's like you don't have to pay more than £10 in Poundland to get stuff like that. And Poundland is like the British version of the dollar store.
But with a lot more violence than the dollar store, from what I witnessed when I was over in the States. So, like they're never going to have that stuff in ever again. I don't know why. It's a sort of the same as like Primark. Do you ever been to Primark if you've been over here? And people just throw the clothes everywhere, and it's like you just see the deflated staff just constantly folding this stuff because it's being thrown all over. And it's like, listen, just because everything you can buy everything there for, like everything in the store for £20 just in one go, doesn't mean you have to sling it everywhere. For Christ's sake.
No, people are inconsiderate. Like you wouldn't do that.
Oh, they wouldn't let you.
Or
they would not let you.
Stuff like that. Yes.
100%.
Out by security.
Past that, the weird Egyptian wing that they've got.
Oh my God, I miss the UK. I miss the UK so much. For some weird reason,
It's
I love that country.
it's great. That's
For
why.
some
No,
weird
it's
reason.
it's got it in the name, but no. Yeah, there's certain things that I do really like about the UK for sure. I think
Yeah,
sort of the sense of humor is what I like the most about it.
I do. I do. My husband, when we got married, he's like, American comedians, stand up comedy, the States. It's like, you haven't been to a British show, have you? And he's like, they're boring. And I said, you probably didn't understand it. That's what
No, it's like the difference I find between, and this isn't for every single American comedian, but there's just a lot of yelling. There's so much yelling, and I don't know why they have to yell all the time. It's just I don't understand. If the joke is funny, why are you screaming at
it's.
me right
I
now?
think,
I've paid
yeah,
money to come in here.
it's. I think it's like
Yeah,
a cultural thing. Maybe there was this trope that the the, um, the Americans are loud and rambunctious, and the Brits are like
I
cool,
don't know
calm, and
about cool,
collected and
but
stuff
yeah.
like that. And it's just like, yeah, you haven't seen, yes, you haven't seen them on Sunday night going out to
Oh
the
my
bars in
days.
Manchester.
That's something that the
You
Americans
haven't.
really can't get their head around is just how much that we can drink compared to them.
No,
It's just
it's
hey
it's
man, I had
it's
like
it's
three
it's
Bud Lights last night. I
fascinating.
was off my head. It's like, okay, bro. I had that for breakfast. No, no, I went
Oh
for like eight
no.
years without drinking at all at one point, just because when I found out I had
Oh, interesting.
Fabry disease, I just decided it probably would be better not to do that. And now I do it
Okay.
very rarely. Like it's, I might drink like 3 times a year sort of thing. Well, no, not in the last year, but because
Oh
it will only be for going out purposes. But yeah, it's
yeah,
yeah, but obviously I was 18 once, and you have a good
yeah.
time.
I get it. Yeah, that's funny because I don't drink. I grew up in a culture where drinking is almost prohibited, so people
No,
don't do it like socially. So I had American colleagues who became friends who joined us for work in 2007, and they looked at me as like, what do you mean people don't drink here? So if you go to like a football game, it's like, that's what Pepsi is for, guys. So
that's
like,
funny.
so we don't drink. And I tried it. I tried alcohol back in my crazy
Whoa.
times in 2008. And it didn't work for me. I it's like, you either
Well,
like the
yeah,
taste
that's
or
the
you
thing.
don't,
It's
and I
not
don't. So
a thing that you. Yeah, I think that's become more so over recent years. Is it's not something that everyone has to do to have a good time at the end of the day.
yeah,
And yeah, like I said, for me, it's not like when I wasn't drinking, I was like, oh, I'm missing out. I literally didn't miss it at all. And it's not like when I
okay.
which sounds like, when I went back to it, it was just off the back of, well, it's sort of why not? And at this point in time, I know I'm not going to just get legless or anything of that nature. I sort of have like a 3-4 pint
Yeah.
limit, and that will be it for me. I'm okay then. But then I'm very and I got to qualify it with I am pretty antisocial. At the same time, I do get sick of people very quickly. Like I do have like a point where whenever,
True.
even
Yeah.
when I used to go out, I
We're
would be
done.
like, oh, I'm just going to pop to the toilet and I'm gone. You will not see me again because I'm not going through that whole thing of, yeah, stay, have another one. It's like, no, I've decided. I'm not, I am over you people.
I'm
Yeah.
leaving. We're done here, sir.
Thank
Good day,
you
sir.
very much, but I'm off now. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's so
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably why we do a bit well on Twitter, because we don't
exactly
have to actually talk to
when
people.
I'm over it, I'm just that's it. I go off and I live my life somewhere else. It's yeah.
Yeah. And so back to, yeah, the jokes. So I remember when I went to Britain for the first time in 2010, and then I went in 2011 during the spring. So I thought I would do something fun and go to a stand-up comedy, and I
Yeah,
think
we've
it's called
there's
The
quite a
Laugh
few of those.
Factory
Yeah.
in London. Yeah, so I went to one of those, and oh my god, the comedian was talking. It was the time of the census, I think.
Oh, right.
So I have never laughed
I've
about the
never laughed about the
census so
census,
much in
so
my life.
you've got one up on me already.
So they have the ability to make the most boring and mundane things hilarious, and I think maybe sometimes you need to have like an idea about British
Yeah.
life. Like, here's another example. I watched Peppa Pig with my daughter, and it's supposed to be a kids show, but that show has so many adult jokes, not safe for work
Okay.
jokes, but like grown up
I was going to say,
jokes
what?
about grown ups.
I think my nephew watches that. I'm going to have to call my sister now. You
No,
would
no,
not believe the filth that is
it's
in Peppa
pretty,
Pig.
it's pretty. No, it's just like comments about parents. It's like, oh my god, I feel it, and it's hilarious. And they put it in the show where like kids would never pick it up, but if you're an
It's a
adult
bit like
watching,
The
you will be
Simpsons in a
entertained.
way, where when I watched it when I was a kid, I found
Yes.
completely different things funny to when I watched it when I was older. I don't watch it anymore because it just went off the hinge. It sort of all
Yeah.
fell off after the Timmy, when he fell down the
I
well
haven't.
episode, sort of thing. You know?
I haven't seen it in years. I've never been a regular watcher of The Simpsons. I watch it in like every couple of months. I would catch up to a couple of
Yeah,
episodes, but it's funny, and I have never watched it as a child because I found out about The Simpsons as an adult,
that's
which
pretty
is
wild. Yeah.
oh, yeah, life in the Middle East. Welcome to my life. So a lot of things we didn't find out about until we were adults, and then you find out that people have been watching this for 20 years, and you're like, oh my god, we missed out. But yeah, The Simpsons is like, we called it a multi-generational
Yeah,
show where
absolutely. I
everybody
mean,
can enjoy it.
the
So
thing with them is they've been around for so long as well. There'll come a point when
yeah,
the writing in itself just changes anyway because no one on the original team is there apart from the creator. Pretty much, it's sort of a bit why
yes,
I think with animated shows, like for me anyway, they've got a little bit of they've got a shelf life in a way where I'll be really into it for a period of time, and then it's like, okay, I sort of pop the pin in after a certain point in time. I had that with Family Guy
yeah,
at one point. That was hilarious because of all the references, and then it just wasn't funny. I just sort of woke up one day. I was like, I don't laugh at this
yeah.
anymore. The same with
I'm over it.
American
Yeah,
Dad, or a lot of the.
yeah. American Dad, Futurama, all these like Futurama is. I still
With
would watch it, but I get the point. Yes, and then you stop watching
Do you know
completely,
what?
and you
It's
get
quite
distracted by
funny.
other things,
A
like
lot
they
of
used to
stuff from the
drum.
90s. I find that a lot of stuff in the 90s hasn't aged well, but stuff from the 80s has. It's kind of strange. So,
Yes, true. Because I think in the 80s they were more mindful of, probably minus a couple of
yeah, yeah,
racism bits here and
yeah.
there.
No,
Yeah,
not those bits.
how how we've become. It's like, yeah, it had racism in it.
Well,
Well, what else are you gonna
it's
do?
kind of mad when you look back at stuff
Yeah,
from when you were a kid and you spot stuff and you're like,
yeah,
oh, I didn't get that when I was younger, but that's totally not on. like
yeah.
the crows in Dumbo. Have you ever
Yes.
seen Dumbo? Those crows are mental when you
Oh my
watch
god.
it as an
The,
adult. But when I was younger, being from the UK, that's just I didn't associate that with that. I associated it with, oh, they talk how people from the South in America talk. That's all I knew it as. And then as
yes.
you get older, you learn about things, and then you're like, oh, those are some really racist crows. Like, what in the hell is going on here?
Uh-huh.
and,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and Dumbo was, I think, released in the 50s or
Oh, it's a
something.
long
Let
time
me
ago,
just do
yeah.
a quick Google for
But
that.
then
Yeah. Yeah, 1941.
it's,
It's like last episode we talked about Tom and Jerry because a lot of people here in the Middle East
I
grew up
remember you
watching Tom
saying
and
actually,
Jerry,
yeah.
and it was also released. Yeah, and it was released between 1940 something and 1960 something, and it's like we watched it, we laughed our asses off as kids, and now you watch it's like, oh my
Oh,
god, that's
really? I
laughing.
just thought it was
funny.
like cat and mouse
Yeah.
violence, you know. Oh my days. There are certain cartoons when you look
Oh my
back
god,
though,
they had
and
like
they
scenes.
have the whole, yeah, there is definitely blackface that you just didn't understand. I'm pretty sure the
Uh-huh.
Moomins has got a really extreme version of that. Um, when you go back, did you ever watch the Moomins? It
No,
was
no, they,
weird
they had a
anyway.
couple
It
of
was a really weird
they had
show.
yeah, I think I watched a couple. I didn't watch it, but I remember it was dubbed into Arabic a couple of years ago. And no, not a couple of years ago, when I was younger. But I didn't get to watch it,
Okay,
and it got pretty popular for a while. But usually, when they dub shows into Arabic, they censor bits and pieces out of it. And
okay,
then last year there was a Twitter thread about it, and the writer who did it, and I think she was a lesbian at the time in I don't know if she was in Finland or Norway, somewhere Scandinavian, and she lived in a time where homosexuality was illegal, and she had to make like a lot of references about her life and her partners and etc.
okay.
In the show. And everybody was talking about how lovely and wonderful that show is. But
All I can remember, there was this one really. In fact, I think it is the one that I'm thinking of where there was blackface in it. The one terrifying episode where they used it was like some kind of triangle creature that had like a black face on it, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
And it was just outside the house. So actually, when I think about it now, this is pretty mad. So you've got these super white Moomins inside their house, scared of this blackface triangle
oh
outside,
my god,
and you're like, now that I'm thinking about it, because I haven't thought about it since then,
that's
I'm like,
that
there's a
went left.
lot of
That really went
really
left.
harsh undertones, overtones, even in that. Jesus,
Yeah.
my days.
No, it's quite normalized in Europe. I think last year there was a discussion about something that happens during Christmas in, I think in Holland and
Yeah,
Spain.
no, it
Yeah,
definitely Holland.
and yeah, Holland and Spain, yes. And people, because I think Europeans didn't get to discuss these issues before immigration waves happened, and then you start having, like, the Netherlands, Holland has a lot of black people in it right now, and
Yeah,
probably they will bring up these issues into discussion. Spain not so much, but I'm pretty sure there are talks about it in the UK and Scandinavia right now and all of that. So what used to fly years ago
oh yeah.
is probably not going to fly
Well,
right
it's
now.
the one in Holland that I saw, um, was like basically everyone in the streets, everyone blackface. It's
Yeah,
I couldn't imagine being POC and just being like, oh,
living
it's
through
that
that.
time of
Yes.
year again, is it? All right then. Well, I'll just make sure I'm not outside because this is going to get weird.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't imagine
Yeah.
that. That's wild. And the fact that everyone's like, yeah, this is totally normal. That's fine, isn't it? Yeah, nothing weird about that.
Yeah. Humans have this tendency of normalizing weird shit all the
Oh
time.
my days.
Um, so, like, I grew up in the Middle East. There are things here that normalized. If I start telling people what happened, there's like, what? So I'm the last one to talk. But
I think
yeah,
that's the same
people
everywhere, isn't
normalize.
there? I think there's
Yeah.
no sort of, utopia anywhere where everywhere's like,
Yeah, that's true.
completely, you know.
I thought Canada was utopia, and I'm pretty disappointed.
Do you know what? Actually, up until last year, I thought that they were super tame. Really, just maple syrup, super friendly. Leave their doors
Yes.
unlocked and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I had no idea up until that with everything around Black Lives Matter in America, you sort of hear about these things in other countries, and Canada was one of them for me, where I thought, oh my days, I thought that was just like friendly America. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah. No, everybody thought that was. I think it was like a propaganda campaign, because even
Oh yeah,
Canadians have this impression
their
about
PR
themselves.
is spot on if
Yes.
that's the case, because
Yeah.
it's I've never heard anything up until last year about it whatsoever.
Yes.
Crazy.
That's true. That's true. There was an incident where I think a couple of TV presenters had an altercation, a white woman and a black woman, and then the white woman pulled the white woman tears, as they say. I don't really remember the details. And then everyone chastised the black woman, although she was the wronged party in this situation. And like, oh, I apologized. The white lady was saying, like, I apologized to her. Why isn't she accepting the apology? She must be a horrible person, and why is she putting this stress on me? And it goes into the circular argument.
The mental gymnastics
where
there.
Eventually,
my God.
where eventually the black woman was being attacked as like she's horrible and unforgiving and all of that. I'm sure Saya would remember the incident. I don't remember the details, but she was onto it at the time.
My days.
And then a couple of weeks ago, someone shared a clip from Made in Chelsea, the reality show.
Oh God! Don't even. Don't. I don't like watching like toffs at the best of times.
No, I was a reality show fan for like a while, and I watched like the Real Housewives franchise, and then you start watching them through these bootleg websites over here because you don't get the proper channels.
Okay, yeah.
And then they start putting like the Real Housewives of Atlanta, of New York, of whatever, and then like The Only Way is Essex and Made in Chelsea, and like you go through.
Oh my God, yeah. The Only Way is Essex. All right, so anyway, from Essex, no, like.
Right. Yeah.
Oh.
You're right. It's funny. So anyway, it's like entertaining because it's like it's not the usual British thing that you expect.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing that got imported over here that we definitely could have done without for sure.
So anyway, I haven't watched Made in Chelsea in years, and then someone shared this clip from like two white girls, and then the black girl, and the black girl was like objecting to something. It's like, why are you being aggressive? It's like, and then you remember when Jackie Aina, for example, comments on something on Twitter, and everybody's like, why is she being aggressive? It's like, she's not being aggressive. She's like saying something.
That's a really interesting thing that you say, because that's something that I notice a lot. It's really wild, actually, that, you know, because I live in like a coastal town, so it's, you know, I'm not around many different cultures at the moment. Where I used to live in like a capital city where you are, and so therefore you can see all these different things. But then if you're away from it for a certain period of years, you know, you sort of, you know, it doesn't come up, so you sort of forget about it in a way. And then when I went onto Twitter, I was like, oh, people are pulling this shit still. It's still happening, you know, where it's like, why are you so aggressive? And it's like, but this person's literally red-faced, you know, screaming. And then you're saying to the person who's defending themselves, like, why are you getting aggressive? It's so weird. It's such a bizarre thing.
Yeah. But yeah, it happens all the time. It's
I don't like people.
Here's the mind-blowing thing. There are tropes about Black people that were perpetuated almost everywhere, and it's shocking to me because here's an example. My cousins went to university in Jordan, and Jordan, like northern Arab country, they're entirely Arab, white, etc. And then you get a couple of Black people there, and they used to hear, and that was in the 90s, and they used to hear comments from them that's like exactly the same as Black people heard in the US. What are you talking about? Like and there was, here's what shocked me to my core. There was, if you remember, a couple of months ago, someone posted a picture, like a shot from a nursing course book, where it says like, it says that a couple of ethnicities, they have different behaviors, and you have to be mindful of that. And then one paragraph said about how Black people tolerate more pain. That's more than wild. Others. Yes, exactly. So
someone actually wrote that. I literally wrote it and thought it was good. Checked it over
in a proper textbook, which is mind blowing to me. And which is also strange, because here we have these tropes as well about people, but then you get the opposite reaction. Like Black people would say that our symptoms are being ignored, but it doesn't make sense, because if you have this idea that Black people tolerate pain more, that if they come in your emergency room screaming from pain or complaining of something, you should be on top alert, because this means that this person has something extremely
Yeah,
serious.
it's just
Yeah.
natural, you'd think.
And this happens, yeah, and this happens here. Like, I'm not going to mention nationalities, but they have the same stupid mentality here, where they say, like, this nationality, they have high tolerance for pain. So if one of them comes in with like screaming of pain, everybody's on high alert, because this means there's a disaster going on with this guy. Otherwise, he would be home tolerating the pain and just talking to his family and stuff. So, it didn't make any sense in my mind. And then I was talking to my mother, and she said,
it makes no sense in your mind because it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, exactly. And then my mom would say, yeah, when we were younger, they told us like darker skinned people tolerate pain more than lighter skinned people.
Wow.
I was like, what? Okay. And like, oh yeah, because of course our country is Sudan, so we had like North Sudan, which is like mixed with Arabs, and then South Sudan, which is like purely African tribes. And they were like, yeah, kids from African tribes from the south tolerate fever of malaria more than the lighter skinned kids in the north. It's like, oh my god, you two, a two brute.
It's like
I can't
science.
believe you guys said that. Science. It's like, oh my god. So anyway, so my cousins went to Jordan and they heard the same rubbish from people. Like, is this like an international conspiracy?
It almost seems like it, doesn't it? Because like, where's the person just going, hang about? What's all this bollocks that you're teaching? You go, well, it's in the book.
So
if it's in the book, it must be true. So
yeah,
it's bizarre.
It's exactly, it's bizarre. And there are reports about how Black people have higher kidney function test numbers than white people. So when you get a Black person with slightly higher numbers, you don't have to refer them to a kidney specialist right away, and then they have to suffer with kidney disease longer, and they don't get on transplant lists.
That's just disgusting.
Enough.
That's just absolutely disgusting.
And I had to go back and look, and there was a study from the 90s that said that, and it's like,
I love how everything gets revised constantly, apart from that.
Exactly. It's exactly like the people who say that vaccines cause autism. It's like, from the 90s, people have moved on. The guy who wrote it came back and said that I fibbed all of this. So let's move on, people.
That's almost like with Scientology, isn't it? Where it's like they got a person who writes a ton of crap sci-fi.
He literally said, I'm gonna
yeah, he's just like, I made this up, and people are like, okay, well, I believe it to be actual fact. Like, what?
Yes, exactly. It makes no sense to me at all. So yeah, so back to what were we talking about?
Something vitally important.
I love the tangents. Yeah, the tangents are great. So yeah, Black people. Yeah, Canada, and we.
Oh, that was it. Yeah. So that's quite. Well, it's pretty shocking to me. I mean, like I said, I'm not an expert again, but I've heard that. Yeah, there's definitely parts of Canada where that's 100% not the case, where it's not all just friendly smiling and
I think
ho neighbor
like
and all of that.
Yeah, where you have, it's probably more pronounced in the US, but when you live in big metropolitan coastal cities and you have multiple ethnicities in it, it's not so prevalent. Like Ontario, certain parts of Ontario is like run by conservatives right now, so it's not like as great as it used to be. But people who lived in Vancouver, etc., I have a lot of friends who migrated to Canada, and they never complain about racism or anything. And even Muslims, they wear hijab and they have no issues. But then you hear about provinces are like more central, more rural, just completely white people, and the KKK basically resides there. And so basically your diet
American. I mean, I guess it's like with anywhere really. It sort of depends on where you go, and the more people, the more more culture, as it were, as there is, the more the less of that kind of attitude there is too. I mean, it's quite funny actually. You've reminded me of a story. It is a funny story, but it's a bit of a weird one at the same time. So when so I live in Wales and we've got the valleys here, right? And it's sort of like you've got Cardiff, which is the capital, yeah.
The capital, yeah.
And then everything sort of sprawls out towards the valleys, and then it goes all the way up to North Wales, which is a different story again. But so I used to live in this place called Treforest, which is sort of half and half. It's halfway. It's where one of the universities were. I'm not sure if it still is. And I moved into a house with just completely random people when I was there. And there was this girl who was from a town that I'd never been to, I'd never heard of. But I'd always had this friend Raf, who we knew through college and all the rest of it, and his parents were from Jamaica, so he's 6'3", afro, or the whole shebang in that way, and really. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just remembering how funny he was, but I haven't seen him in ages, and I said, "Hey, come up to my house, man, and we'll go have an evening up at the Union and all the rest of it,
hang out and stuff."
And then I didn't even consider that. Well, I can say her name. No one knows her name. Sarah, who I lived with. I never even considered that she'd never seen a black person who wasn't on TV. So when I come in, we're both yelling at each other. Me and Ralph are like, "Whoa," having a laugh. And the look on her face, and it wasn't a bad thing, I want to say it wasn't like negative. It was just like she fully hadn't seen, a black person in real life, like 100%. It was just the weirdest thing, because she'd always lived in her little town. She'd never gone out of there at all. And we're like, "Are you right? Have you seen a ghost or something?" Because it didn't click at first. We just saw her in the hallway, like looking like wide-eyed, like, "Oh my God." And they're like, "Come into the kitchen. Well, we're going to continue drinking." And she was just like looking at Raf the whole time, and like, "What? Why are you staring so much, Sarah? What's going on?" She goes, "Oh, I don't know. I haven't met one of you guys before." And I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh my God. Well, get your coat. We're about to go to the pub now." So, and then she completely wound down and everything, but it was just I was amazed by the fact that, and that wasn't that crazy. It wasn't like she lived out on a shack in the middle of a mountain range or anything
in the woods or something.
It was like it was just a few towns away. But yeah, you just sort of it's sort of weird how you have that still in a place like the UK, which is tiny.
I have mixed feelings about it. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it, because let's say she probably, I'm not trying to slight her or anything, but she probably have seen.
Oh no, she had. So that's what I'm saying. She just hadn't seen them in real life.
Exactly, but it's not like.
And then she's got 6'3", really loud. Like both of us were just like kicking off.
The reaction is a bit strange, because you moved into like a bigger city. You're bound to see different people, so one wouldn't be so shocked. But if someone lived in like the Amazon rainforest and haven't seen anybody but their tribe members, and they don't have TV and they don't have the internet, so when they see someone different, they would get shocked. That's understandable, but because they would probably assume that all humans on Earth would look like them, and then they say this extremely
the palest of the pale,
or a very dark skinned person. Yeah, so that would be a bit weird, but I don't know. But it feels it brings the exotic bit that, not saying that all white people do that, but it's probably because the dominant culture thing, where even black guys do it sometimes, or like Latina women and stuff like that, and they have this brainwashing thing that someone is exotic, but nobody is exotic. It's just like
that's exactly all it is,
and they have different characteristics, and it's normal. And the sense of like, I got shocked by seeing someone from a different ethnicity shouldn't be in human minds at all, but it's there. There's nothing I can say or do about it.
So weird. It was because I not long had met her. I'd only seen her, I met her like a couple of weeks beforehand, and and then obviously Raf was hamming it up big time. Then it was just like trying to mess with her super hard, and it was just really funny. But yeah, like I say, it's you still have like
Poor girl.
places there's places that I won't go to that are much more, a bit sort of, uh, well, yeah, well, just
Isolated.
more like
Oh,
prevalent in the racism, and you sort of know it just from like it's like that's just what that town. And I'm not saying everyone in that town is about that, but
yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
you've met a lot of people from there, sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's
No, I get it. It's like the sundown cities in the US where you know that if you're black, you shouldn't be there
what?
after the sun is down. Just leave quickly. Oh, you haven't heard of that? There are cities in the US right now where if you shouldn't be there after sundown if you're black, if you're not white,
What?
basically. You probably will get hurt. Yeah, yeah. And I knew that
That's
things like
crazed.
this existed, but I didn't know that stuff like that still happened in 2020. I was shocked last year
What? And it's
on
just
Twitter.
like that's the way it's
And
always been,
then
and everyone's like, "Yep, that's the way it shall be." That's mad.
yeah.
That is really crazy.
No, I thought people moved on from that because that would make sense. That made sense, for example, in the 70s and 60s, etc. And I didn't know it was still going on in certain towns in the US. And then this girl tweeted the craziest story. They lived, I think, around Detroit, which is a pretty like a very high
Yeah.
percentage of black people live there. And I think it was Detroit. And she was a part of the Girl Scouts. So she said that they used to go on camping trips with and the parents would be
Right.
the scout leaders. So they would go like a girl troop with their mothers, and she didn't know that there are cabins in the wood designated for like the Girl Scouts. They used to go, the mothers would take them, they go through the woods, they pick up the berries and see the squirrels, and they have the whole fun experience as little girls. And she didn't know that the parents would have like a guarding schedule because the KKK was in the area and they could have probably abducted and killed the black girls.
What?
And I was like, that was yeah, that was less than 15 years ago. These girls are like young in their mid 20s, and I was like,
That's
I can't breathe reading
that's
this. It was shocking
disgusting,
to
is what
me.
it
It's
is.
like,
Yeah.
oh my, I know. It's like this is still going on. That's shocking. And these girls, she said she didn't know anything. Her mother didn't tell her. They didn't want the little girls to know and like lose the fun experience. And then she met girls who used to go with her, and they talked about it. And some of the older girls knew then and told them later on in life. And she said, we went on these trips, we had the fun and the time of our lives, and we didn't know that our mothers had to like go through all of that stress.
That's mind bending.
What the
That's like
hell?
actually mind bending.
I
That's
know, I know, I
phew.
know. It's
I actually can't like
unbelievable.
that's
Yeah,
spanned me out, to be honest with you. That's my days.
yeah. So yeah, I didn't know stuff like that was still happening like 10, 15
No,
years from now. It's like you read about these things and you think the 50s, the
like if
60s,
you just
probably the
told me that and
70s
didn't give me a
maybe.
year, I'd been
But
like, oh yeah, what was that, like the 60s or something? Yeah.
back in the day.
I wouldn't have
Yeah,
even
back in the
like
day.
questioned that it was now. It's
Yeah.
that's mind bending. Yeah, that's really mind bending.
Yeah. Like you would get um the racism is still relevant
Of course.
in different parts of the world, but then this level of violence with it is just
Well,
unbelievable.
that's the thing. I'd say you sort of,
Yeah.
again, if it's not necessarily around you, you don't you sort of don't think about it very often. Do you know what I mean? As a, the thing about having
Yes.
Twitter is obviously I'm like linked into all of these things all of the time, so I'm seeing that these things occur on a regular basis. But like, you know, I'll tell another story. So I used to work with this guy called Marcus, and he was telling me how he worked at a call center previously that he left, where he and like I said, this blew my mind when he told me, because like I just it didn't occur to me that people were like this still, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
he so when you start like a call center job, you usually have like 4 weeks of training in like a school environment, if you know what I mean. So it's set up like a school teacher at the front, and then you've got all
Yes.
the desks with the computer on. And he went and sat at the back and went off for his break or his lunch or whatever. And then when he came back, someone had left a bunch of bananas like on his seat. Which he told me that I was like, what was this, the fucking 70s? Did you travel back in time? What are you talking about? Like, there's no way someone would do that now. Because again, I'm living in a place where that I'm not seeing that all of the time, you know. So you sort of, you know, to some extent, you're obviously aware that it's occurring in the world, but you're like, no, not here. It can't be happening here. Yeah, that's crazy.
Not so close.
You know,
yeah.
this
not
isn't
so close, yes.
Millwall, but yeah, it's. And then he told me how, you know, he just basically got it because he didn't want to jeopardize his job or anything. But before the teacher came in, it was someone who worked there, but you get what I mean. Yeah. He got up and he goes, you know, I don't know who did this. I'm not going to do anything about it now. But if it happens again, then, you know, watch out, sort of thing. Yeah, exactly.
I'll do something about it. Yeah.
Then, you know, further down the line, they're out on the floor now and they're working. And again, he goes on this break because this is what happens with these people, because they're cowards. They would never say these kinds of things to his face ever. They've always got to sort of operate when he's not there. And he comes back, and you know, you have those. So, like with a vending machine, you have like plastic cups, and you know, if you just want to get your own drink, then you can just get the cup like sort of popped out on its own without any drink. Well, someone had done that. So this is the sort of the weird lengths and dark creativity they went to. They got one of those cups, spat in it, and like so that you could visibly see what it was, and wrote "choke N-word" on the inside of it, and left it on his desk.
Shit.
And you know, obviously he freaked out when he came back, because that's just like, I mean, that's outrageous. That's really crazy.
That's traumatizing. Yeah.
And he and then he, you know, he went to the manager, and the manager's like, oh, this is outrageous, you know, we'll get to the bottom of this, don't worry, give me the cup and we'll have that as like evidence. I don't know what they're intending to do, because it's not like they have like a CSI on, you know, on standby in a call center in the UK. I don't know how it is everywhere else, but
yeah,
exactly.
You're lucky if you have CCTV
and
here or there. Yeah.
And then for, you know, it sort of went quiet for a few weeks. Well, this is the weird part, right? This is a really bizarre part to me, where you could tell that they sort of just had it in for him, for whatever, you know. This was, you know, there's the people who did this, and I'm not sure if the people who did this were friendly with the management at this point. You know what I mean? So what happened was his granddad died, so he had to, you know, ask for some time off. And because he asked for the time off, he then got taken into it for disciplinary. And he was like, well, why is this? Because I've asked for time off. And they said, well, it's within your probationary period, so you shouldn't be taking this kind of time off anyway. He's asked in advance. He didn't just go and be like, oh yeah, deal with it, sort of thing. He's asked in advance. And then and then at this point he goes, well, you know, this is pretty mental. Plus, what the hell's going on with you know, my complaint about racism? And you could he said he could tell that basically it was the fact that he'd complained about the racism is why he's had this sort of knock-on effect with the disciplinary. And they're like,
because he's a troublemaker now. He should have taken
exactly
it and
you know,
bent over
just
and
like smile and wave and fuck off, sort of thing. And they were like, oh well, we've lost the cup. That, you know, we're not doing anything about that now because we don't have any evidence. And he just went, he just got up and went, fuck all of you, and just left, you know, because like at that point, what are you going to do? You're going to have them breathing down your neck the entire time because they think they want to label you as a problem, like employee, when there's these like, he said he reckons he knew it was like this 2 or 3 people, like specifically, who did it, because they're always like sniggering and stuff like that around him. But you can't prove anything off the back of sniggering, can you? So it's
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
kind of that was like a weird thing for me, because I didn't obviously, again, I'm not going to pretend and like sit here like I was ignorant to racism occurring in the world. I know we're not all singing kumbaya or anything like that, but I
Yeah.
always sort of figured that that was happening, where the KKK exists and shit like that. It's I don't know, it's kind of weird. And then from that point on, I was like,
Yeah, you don't realize
exactly.
how close to home it
And then
can
from that
be
point on, I was
and
like,
how
right,
subtle it
I'm
can be.
clued into
Yeah.
this now. It's I don't trust anyone basically. But yeah, it was just a really crazy story, because he told me that, and I was like, what? He was sort of laughing at how shocked I was, and he's just like,
Yeah, because probably he experienced this probably before, or heard his family
exactly.
members talk about it, or like, oh, this is a part of our life.
And
But
back then, I was a
for
lot
someone
more
who doesn't
hippy dippy. I
experience
was
it,
doing,
it's
tie-dye
shocking. Yeah.
t-shirts and all that shit. So yeah, it was, for me, I was just like, what? We're not all like, I thought we were all one, man. And then, yeah, obviously over the years, I've just,
Oh my god,
yeah,
you
well,
were one of
I
those.
used to
Oh
smoke
my
a lot
god.
of weed, didn't I? But yeah, it's just,
Oh my god.
yeah, like I say, it's mind bending, and like, but now it's gotten to a point where you see so much, and it's how can you not on Twitter, just with it being brought to the forefront the entire time, and rightly so, that you're like, it's almost depressing that you're not shocked anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, so that happened, did it?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, it's disgusting, but I'm not like, no, I'm not surprised. I'm still. Let me put it this way: I'm shocked, but I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. Yeah,
Nobody is shocked or
it's
surprised
shocking,
anymore.
but
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
like,
Exactly.
It's
No, I
like, oh
understand.
well, of course, because there's racist assholes out there.
It's like when we say it's
Exactly.
sad
Yeah,
how
that's probably the best
believable
way
the
of putting it.
story
To be
is.
fair, um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, yeah, it's mind bending, like I say, and like, I think this all came from the point that we were saying that, like, oh, we thought Canada was a lot nicer and friendlier and everything, and it's just none of them are.
Yeah.
Nowhere. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there are problems everywhere. Uh, so yeah, what the country that
Which one?
literally blew my mind
Oh yeah, no, they're
was
really bad for it,
Japan.
actually.
Japan was like, here's the reasoning behind this. Arab media, they literally idolize Japan
Of course,
because
yeah.
the anime, the robots, the the TVs and the cars. So
Is there a
everybody
lot?
had
Is
this
there a lot of
assumption that
neckbeards and fedoras over there?
the Japanese, they have the
Oh god.
yeah, we do have them. Yeah, the gamers and the
Wearing
neckbeards,
fingerless gloves for no
like
apparent reason
everywhere.
whatsoever.
But
Trench coats, and it's like, you're not Neo, man. You will never be
yeah.
Neo. You're never going to be Neo. Just get it in your head.
You tried, bitch, but you can't.
No.
You're not the finger. You're not the blueprint. So, so we grew up with this culture, with this idea that, and I have to give it to them. They're pretty organized. They have this impeccable work ethic, and they value respect. So they have all these positive attributes. But then Arabic media idolized them so much that you would never consider that there are problems in Japan. And then you go on the internet, like 20
Yeah.
when you're like 20 something, and you grew up watching anime and assuming that Japan is like the coolest place on earth. And then you start reading about the problems, like the misogyny, the harassment, the mental health issues, the way they handle, like, I would have never imagined that Japan would be a country that faced problems with handling
Yeah, it
COVID.
seems like the
It
kind of
feels
country
like
where
I
you'd
have
think they'd be
Japanese friends who
really
post
on the ball. Yeah, it's just
honest,
robots giving out vaccines.
yes, and like just like New Zealand, kill it from like the first month, and then find the vaccine and get it done, and it's like, what is happening? I'm being traumatized right
I don't know. I think for me, with Japan, it seems like a cool place, and it, in terms of, it would be interesting to go and visit, just to have my mind blown by how different it is from over here. You know, anywhere that has live
Yes.
crabs and
Yeah.
vending machines is somewhere that it's going to spin me out no matter what, you know. but yeah, it's
Yes. I think, yeah, I think it's fun to go. It's like people think, just like pretty much like the UK for me. I love to visit, and I would visit again for sure. But going to a country and just visiting it, it's like going to Disneyland in the US, and then you have the best time of your life. But then you'd be out of touch if you assume that
yeah,
your
and you don't want
experience
to
in
live in
Disneyland is
Disneyland
how
as
the
well.
US
That's the other
is.
thing, because it
Yeah.
just drive you mad. But
It's
it's the same with anywhere. You sort of go and you have a little look. It's actually quite.
Yes. And you see the good things because you're a tourist, and then
It's kind
everybody
of
would
funny,
guide you
right?
towards the fun
So that
parts.
you mentioned that, right? So I went to Australia when I was 19, and I loved it, like the country, and I met really really friendly people everywhere. Um, and one thing, I went from Perth to right up north. There's a place called Shark Bay, and then we went back through Perth again, down south to Albany, which is like a surfer like town, I guess. It's not really a city. Um, and one thing that I found really mind bending that I just really did not expect, because everything that I knew about Australia was basically the animals, because I used to be really obsessed with animals, and I just knew what was going to be
Yeah.
there. And Neighbours, which is a show over here, which is like a sitcom. I'm not sure if
Yes. Yeah.
America and all that would have it over there, but it's like an Australian sitcom, and that's what I knew about Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been there for like more than 20 years. No, I watched a couple of episodes back in
Oh,
the day
really?
because our local TV channels used to show it. But that was in
Yeah,
the
still
late
going, still
90s, early
going.
2000s.
Um,
Yeah, and it's still going, just like Holby City and
exactly. Oh,
EastEnders and
and
stuff like
I
that.
knew that
So,
they were surfing there, and
yeah.
that's all I knew about Australia, right? So when I went over there, everything up until I got to this place, I think it was called Australand, if I'm remembering right, which I thought was kind of a weird name for, considering that like all the places are called like Manjimup or like really, I don't know, they're just kind of typically Australian names, but like weird names to us,
Uh,
if you know what I mean. Um, and
yeah. And
yeah,
they're
yeah,
probably they are indigenous names, so they wouldn't be
definitely
familiar
not. No.
to an English person or a British person.
And
Yeah, I understand.
so
Okay.
yeah, so I thought, oh, this place is really cool. And but then what made me sad was, so one thing I noticed in Perth, and again, this is just the ignorance that 19-year-old Brit who didn't know anything about Australia at the time, has only ever seen, in terms of Australia, white people, like on the TV. They're all like super blonde, super white, muscly, and all the rest of it, surfing all over the place. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh wow, there's quite a lot of like people from Asia over here. Like in general, I just didn't expect that. And so when I went to this place, I think it was Australia, I can't remember, somewhere like out in the outback, I guess you'd call it. Um, and we went to this
Uh-huh.
pub. Oh, got absolutely hammered because they drink. They've got drive-through off licenses, so they're all about it over there, um, and it was absolutely hammered. And people were like, "Oh, is there anything surprising about Australia that you didn't expect?" Coming from the UK. And I was like, yeah, like one thing I never thought, you don't see at all is just how many Asian people are over here. And that wasn't like a slight or anything. I was just saying that was, I didn't expect that, because that's not what's portrayed over on my TV. And out of nowhere, it's like kicked off the most racist conversation I've ever heard in my whole entire life. I mean, I will not quote any of it because it was
Okay.
mind bending. It was like an
Yeah.
innocent comment from me, just going, "Oh yeah, this is I didn't expect it," um, and all of a sudden it was just like half an hour of just saying all sorts of mad shit. Like I said, I won't say, because it's just not it's not
Yeah.
good. No, not at all. Like,
Not
and it was
acceptable by
just
any
like, oh
standards.
wow, well now here's
Yeah.
the other surprising thing that that if they were to ask me again, what's the surprising thing about? No
I
way. I
I
just
didn't
didn't
know they
expect
were
it. I
that
thought they were all called
racist.
Bruce. You know, like playing pool. No, I'm joking. I'm obviously joking. But yeah, I just thought, you know, it seemed so relaxed and so laid back. And
Yeah,
then
it's
obviously,
that was interesting
no,
because
no, not at all, not at all.
not to cut you off or anything, sorry. Um, because for a couple of, especially the time between 2000 and 2010, even up to 2015, like there were so many websites in the Middle East where they were like encouraging people to immigrate
Oh
to Australia.
yeah.
You know, the skilled worker thing,
Oh, if you're a
for like
nurse as well
doctors and
over there,
engineers
they're
and
always wanting
whatever.
nurses and
And then you
doctors.
get
You know, it's
exactly, yeah. So you get all these encouraging websites and whatever, and then you go for a couple of years and then you get a citizenship, blah blah, and a lot of South Sudan refugees went there. And here's the, as you would say, the mind bending thing. Everybody expected them to be welcomed with open arms, and you would think that, because here's the thing, the government would behave a certain way and put all this bunch of PR, just like Canada, and that the people would
yeah.
behave in a completely opposite way. And when people started having social media, like
Oh,
Facebook started in
Facebook.
probably 2005 or 2006, and then yeah, Facebook initially was kind of nice because people started talking and just conversing with each other from all parts of the world, and then it became
Facebook was just an
the
orderly
shithole that it is right
MySpace at
now.
first. That was the nice thing. It was like, and then all of a sudden, everyone's sort of
Yeah,
parents got it, and it just went mental.
it was it was MySpace without the special effects. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because it started like a college website, so, but people started like expressing what they experienced, and nobody believed that Australia would have
Again,
so much
it's
racism.
the
It's like,
PR
what's
team at
going
that
on?
time
It's like,
to the rest of the world was, you know,
yeah,
selling it that wasn't the case. I mean, you know, you're watching Neighbours, everyone's getting on, no one's saying anything like that behind each other's back. You assume, but then you think back and it's like, oh well, they are all
yeah,
white on Neighbours, so it's like you just again,
yeah,
it's the
exactly.
naivety
Yeah.
of youth at that point because you didn't assume any different because you're just shown one thing. And I mean, honestly, when I say it was one of the craziest conversations I've ever, and here's the weird thing about it, right? So I should have known because there was like a dude playing the spoons and everyone was wearing flannel and like, you know, it's one of those things that on hindsight
I could I could imagine your face, and then you couldn't say anything. And then I remember that meme of the girl who's like watching people completely going off at the dinner table, and then she looks like
yeah.
horrified. I'll show you the gif when we go back to Twitter. It's like, how was the chicken? Did
It
anyone
was
try
all
the
that and it
chicken?
was
I thought the
completely
chicken was lovely.
it was all from myself. It was just a totally innocent remark, if anything. Because here's the thing: where I'm from, you know, from you know, I'm
Yeah.
originally from Cardiff. Um, we have like a large like Asian community there because a lot of them go to the university there. So it wasn't unusual for me, but I was like, oh, I just didn't expect it over here, sort of thing. Yeah, you just because, but then
In
you know, I didn't
Australia,
put two and
yeah.
two together and go, well, Asia's so close in general. Um, why wouldn't it be? It
Yeah.
was only once I got there that I was like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. So I thought, and you got to understand how remote this fucking place was, right? So when they started going off, me and my friend at the time who I
Yes.
went out with, I were like, are we going to die in this place? Because like, you know, they could bury us anywhere. Well, that was it. You know,
If we say something wrong or like seem
so we walk
sympathetic
into this
towards the
bar.
immigrants or
You
something.
know, at the time, you know, I used to eat steak all the time. I don't bother eating steak anymore. But we're like, oh my god, you can get a steak like the size of your plate. That's amazing. And then all of a sudden, someone's like playing the spoons along to this girl singing like Dolly Parton, and then I was like, that's pretty weird, but whatever. And and then there's sawdust all over the floor, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty. Oh yeah, and I nearly had a strange near miss already, like with them in that bar, where like, or they call them pubs over there, as well. So
Yeah.
I went to make a joke. It wasn't a good joke. I'll just say that now before I say it. But have you heard of Foster's? Like Foster's beer? Okay, well, like it's sort of known.
No.
It's like the whole thing it's sold on is it's being Australian.
There goes the joke.
Yeah.
Let's say it's like
But
Budweiser.
here's the thing: they don't drink that over there. It's just sold to us like it's Australian beer over here. It's like made in Scotland or something. So.
Okay.
Well.
Why would they?
Because I don't know, they get to put like a kangaroo on it, and everyone's like, "That's pretty cool, I guess." And so I went up to the bar, and I'm like, "Hey, you right there, mate? Can I have a Foster's, please? Because he who thinks Australian drinks Australian, because that's the tagline." And like they all dead faced me, and just like looking at me like, and they go. They're just like, we don't drink that here. That's pretty stereotypical. And I'm like, oh, right. Well, what do you drink? And he just like brings out this cat. I know.
Oh, the audacity!
But here's the funniest bit, right? So he goes, we don't drink that here. And I'm like, right, okay. What do you drink? And he just slams down this can of emu bitter, because that's not like a stereotypical Australian thing at all, is it? So,
oh my God, the lack of self-awareness.
Oh, it was weird. So, like in that part of the pub, like I was like, okay, I can't remain in here. So we'll go over to the next part where there's the pool table and everything. And in that part, everyone's allowed to like pour their own pints and all of this kind of thing. It's like just be honest. So it's one of those places where it's like the same people go there all of the time. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
The town
and
pub, so everybody knows everybody.
And then that's at the time where like I used to smoke cigarettes, so smoking cigarettes and playing pool and all of this, and that's when I got asked the question. So I've been through a weird experience already in that place, and then that's when I got asked what's the weird thing, and I mentioned that, and it set off like half an hour of just pure hell, where we're just there like looking at it. It's like, can we just like fuck off, like? But we did start this, and is it rude, and will they let us? And we'll go all these questions, and there's no town nearby apart from this place. We'd already, I know, and then it's like, oh my God, and then went back to the rooms, and like there was like our room, and then my mate's family were in the room next door, and they'd forgotten their key, so they were like, oh, can you go climb up through this? There's like a crawl space above. Above the rooms, and you can get down into ours. Then I was like, yeah, no worries. And I went to go up there, and there was all of these, I think they call them like huntsman spiders over there. I went, fuck that. It was like hundreds of them up in this like attic. And I was like, no. And they're like, no, you'll be fine. I was like, is it? Well, maybe you go up there. Why don't you go up there? Like, so I'm not going up there. It's only because I was like the skinniest at the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not dying for you to have a room for the night. So they had to call.
Yeah, the Australian outback.
They're like the size of your hand, at least. Like, nope, and then like the biggest ones are like the size of a plate. It's a dinner plate. No, well,
I don't need that.
That's the only time I ever saw anything. Because the way people tell it to you when you're like, oh, I'm going to go to a street, and they're like, oh, there's all of these like crazy animals, and it's like, yeah, but you don't open the plane and they're just flying at you like snakes and spiders are just flying out of the clear blue sky at you. It's the way like people make it come across. But obviously, if you're going to look under an attic or look in an attic or look under a stone or something like that, you might find some freaky stuff. Oh, and also check your shoes and the toilet if you're going to one of those weird places. But if you're in like a regular place like Perth, like a town or city even. No, Perth's probably the most beautiful city I've ever seen. to be honest. And it's kind of weird because it's got weird, sort of like bits of it's sort of there's like parts of it that look like San Francisco, and then there's parts of it that look like sort of Sydney, and I don't know. It's sort of like a mishmash of cities in one big city.
Interesting.
And everyone that I met was really, really friendly, really friendly. And of course, there's people from other parts of the world, so you feel a bit more secure than in the arsehole of nowhere, you know, with Bruce the murderer. But
yeah.
Oh dear. But yeah.
No. That was that. Oh,
I
all
know,
of
right?
this,
I
and
mean,
we
this is the
started just
thing
talking about
is
Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star.
I was like, beforehand,
Yeah.
because I went back and I listened to like re-listened to the podcast, and I was like, oh my god, they're talking about like pagan history and ancient history and all of this. So I'm just going to talk about Trisha and Shane fucking Dawson and yeah.
No,
Well, hopefully it wasn't
we
all
got quite the
gibberish, you know.
conversation going. That was fantastic. Yeah, and no, that went really well. And you know what's funny? Before we started
That
talking, I
is
watched the
my favorite
the Helen
thing
and
in the
Caroline.
whole wide world, if I'm being honest.
So, I'm going to link it when I post this, and everybody.
I wish I could have like
That
drama
was
like
amazing.
that
And
to do videos on every day, if I'm being honest.
you probably could, because Facebook is still like alive and well, and older people just go on it and have these crazy conversations.
That is the best thing
The
ever.
broccoli casserole and
Shout
whatever.
out to Llewellyn for
And
doing the song
they
for
get pretty
that. But
serious.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
LUBALIN.
that was
I think that's right. Yeah. Did you see the butter one?
Yeah,
Have you
I've seen
the butter?
a couple of clips, but I never knew his name.
It's
But...
like this person, I can't remember it word for word,
No.
but it's like an advert that they put out, and they say, please help. I need butter. Don't want to meet anyone. Don't need any new friends. Please just leave it on the corner between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Like, butter is important to me. I'll send that to you as well. It's like he comes out with dynamite, and I think he also did one with I can never remember the difference between all those those late night show guys over in America, because they're all pretty much the fucking same to me. But the one who laughs at his own jokes all the time, Jimmy. Yeah, I think so. He used to be on Saturday Night Live, but he used to do the exact same thing then. But no one learned that he wasn't funny then, so he's not funny now. But but yeah, he does it with one of the girls off Community. Have you ever watched Community at all? You know Annie off Community with the brunette one?
I do.
Yeah, she does it with him too.
Yes.
So it's like a 3.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know what they call them on TikTok because I never go on there, but I was going to call it a 3-way, but you know,
like a
it's something along those lines.
No.
Yeah, when they do the duet,
a
but it's
or something, or
yeah. But yeah, you check that out if no one's watched that. That's really funny. But I'll be honest, because one of the reasons why I did that video is because tensions have been really high, because that got copyright strike because of that song's in it. Like he's because he's an actual musician.
Yeah.
On the side, I guess he also copyrights.
Oh yeah, and
yeah.
His company probably. Yeah.
So I'm not monetized at the moment, but it's not going to be monetized either unless I like write to him and just I'm like, be cool, man. You know. But yeah, that's not the point, because I thought it was just would be a funny one to put out there, because especially at the moment with the community being the way it is, I think, you know, I'm aware that I have a role, if you know what I mean. Like I'm not like the most insightful person on there. I'm not like the most you know, not the deepest person, as it were. I'm just a dickhead who talks into a microphone at the end of the day. But yeah, I thought, well, this will get people laughing, and if that's, if that works, then that's cool, at least,
No, that was, yeah, no, this was hilarious. I was laughing through it, and my daughter was looking at me like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, because I had the headphones on, because I expected like some words would be like not
Oh yeah,
like PG 16, like 16 plus,
they
PG
are
16, whatever.
rancid to each other. They
oh
it
my God,
escalates so hard.
They went there. It's like,
The thing is, right,
as you
so
said, they didn't give a
shout
single
out to
fuck with
Pandy
that.
on
Yes.
Twitter, because she was the one who sort of showed me that it goes on further than the song. But she showed me that, and I was like, oh, I think I've got to make a video about this. So I watched the TikTok, but I didn't take all of it
Amazing.
in. I just saw that they were still going tit for tat, and that Caroline gets involved. And then what was it? And then all these people get involved. Johnny
The other
gets
people.
involved with his terrible typing, which is Caroline, and everything is like a apostrophe with a one, because it's just
Yeah.
oh,
you
absolutely.
know that these people are typing on their desktops, and they have to like press the shift.
I just
and the
love
shift doesn't
how
work, and then you end up with a one
pious
instead of the
and,
exclamation point.
holier than thou Caroline comes across. She's like, the only heart I've stolen is the heart of our Lord. Sort of. No, the only thing I've stolen is the heart of our Lord. Yeah. And Doris is like, I'm not having any of that. No, Helen's like, I'm not having any of this shit. She's like, you're a lizard, and your neck is like a dishwasher rack. They say like the most creative boomer jokes to each other. It's the best. It's so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really cracked me up.
Hilarious.
The other day, actually, so I hadn't watched the video, the song video for a while, for like a week, and I woke up to pop to the loo at like 6 a.m, and I couldn't go back to sleep from then, because all I had was, the bit when Doris comes in and like sticks up for Caroline, and then every time I'm just about to fall asleep, it's just, she's a rotten recipe stealing bitch, Doris. Careful who your friends are. And I was like, right, oh, rent free,
Oh, it lives in your head right now.
Which, like, Angelica said, isn't it? No, right. I'm joking.
Yeah. Oh my God. Angelica really put her foot in her mouth that day.
Yeah, so, no worries
thank you
at all.
so much for joining me today. I have to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although we could continue talking forever, that was great. I hardly have to edit anything. So thanks for that. No, that.
No, thank you.
No,
thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And
no faffing at all.
Faff around, as you would say. So no faffing around.
Indeed,
so
as Siley
so
would.
Yeah, I'll see you on the Twitter streets.
No worries. Ta.
Yes. All right. Greetings, kids, and welcome to Let Me Tell You What I Know, a podcast by The Real Nubian on Twitter, where I talk about music, politics, pop culture, and whatever the hell I want. Basically giving you my 2 cents that nobody asked for. Welcome to episode 11, or the first episode of the 2nd season of the podcast. A milestone that I could not have achieved without your love, support, and constant guidance. For today's episode, let me start by shouting out my dear friend on Twitter, Ellie Berg. She's a trans artist and merch designer who makes Pride-themed items. I already have a Pride-inspired mask from her, because what is better than being safe from COVID-19 and showing solidarity to our LGBTQ+ siblings at the same time? Her items are very well made, they are beautiful, and I'll link her shop details in the episode notes and her Twitter account on the episode post. Now I'll be joined by my fantastic and fancy as hell friend, the commentary YouTuber, the Sarcastic Sloth. We start our conversation talking about YouTube drama and personalities like Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star, and Trisha Paytas, and that takes us into amazing tangents that I'm sure you'll appreciate. I hope you enjoy.
Greetings, kids, and welcome to Let Me Tell You What I Know, a podcast by The Real Nubian on Twitter where I talk about music, politics, pop culture, and whatever the hell I want. Basically giving you my 2 cents that nobody asked for. Welcome to episode 11, or the first episode of the second season of the podcast. A milestone that I could not have achieved without your love, support, and constant guidance. For today's episode, let me start by shouting out my dear friend on Twitter, Ellie Berg. She's a trans artist and merch designer who makes Pride-themed items. I already have a Pride-inspired mask from her, because what is better than being safe from COVID-19 and showing solidarity to our LGBTQ+ siblings at the same time? Her items are very well